How many times did Disney have to remake Snow White?
Magic mirror on the wall, who is the fairest one of all?
Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all?
Before it finally ended up falling on its backside, getting out of control and then rolling off a cliff. That one has layers. And then you have Rachel, who's playing Snow White, and she just so happens to be as toxic as the apple that she has to eat.
I'm a narcissist.
The irony. There's so many layers. All right, let's talk about it. Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Trauma Pond HQ. My name's Olivia, and this is where we sit by the pond and we have a little chat. I need to talk about Rachel Zegler, if that's how you say her last name. I don't want to go into the whole Snow White, why that is the problem, because at the end of the day, it's not the actor's fault for choosing the roles. They're just looking to do a job. Just because they are acting in support of all of these horrific companies that are trying to tear everyone apart right now does not mean that all of them are bad. They're just, well, looking to make as much money as they possibly can. And who can blame people for wanting to make money? The problem is not just the fact that Disney is constantly trying to remake things and make them horribly. Now they're not just hiring the wrong type of people for these roles. They're hiring the worst possible people in general. Hollywood is full of narcissistic people. It is a cesspit of disgusting.
The person was like, you think everything's bad news because you're a psycho. And I was like, yes.
I was like, come on.
Yeah.
Let's have more fun with it.
6.5 minutes.
I think they get it.
But at the very least, they hide their disgusting traits a lot better than most. Rachel has not mastered this yet. So let's have a little look at how toxic this thing is.
Honestly, I'm embarrassed of this because I chose a filter that made me look pink as hell. But you thought you did something. You thought you did something by pointing out that I, like every other person on planet Earth, use filters on my photos. But you know what you really got? Embarrassed. Let me tell you why this is embarrassing. It's because in this photo, I'm still an olive-toned queen.
Okay, all it says in that comment is, I'm sorry, but this is literally the original versus the one that you posted. Well, that's all it says. That is all it says. It's not actually saying anything else in that post. So what is the problem that made you get so aggressive about that? Look, everybody is shamed online. And if you are a celebrity, of course you are going to be a much higher target. I don't even have an audience, massive audience, although I am grateful for every single one of you. I get a lot of hate as well for the things that I say, because obviously a lot of people are going to feel insecure about being confronted by truth. That is unfortunate about this, and who is to say who is right and who is wrong, but people do not like it when they go against their beliefs, and that is insecurity. But how she started this by saying, you embarrassed yourself. In what sense? They're not talking about your skin tone. Maybe it's just the fact that you used a filter. She has such a sense of grandiosity. It is repugnant. Absolutely repugnant.
You don't have to give me any more racial identity confusion than I already have. Let me tell you something. Soy una latina orgullosa y tengo muchos privilegios porque tengo piel clara. But I will never try to bait people by pretending that I look different than I do. Shouldn't even have to explain myself, but go pick on someone else who's actually doing harm by race fishing.
Well, I mean, you do harm. Why do you have confusion anyway? The fact that she says that she already has confusion about her roots, that says a lot right there. Why are you saying that you are confused about what you are? You know what you are. Do you have an issue with what you are? I mean, you shouldn't. I get that you are an olive tone queen, but that is just a toxic message. You could say that so much better, but you don't know how. Let's see the interview that she is getting slammed over. Okay. When you look at all of the videos, all of the pictures of her, she almost looks more psychotic. Like, she does not look pleasant at all. Like, she's the type of person that if you went in for a hug, you could potentially end up getting severely hurt yourself. You know.
I had no idea what I was auditioning for when I auditioned. I didn't realize that I was reading lines with Dopey. I took a pause and realized what I was auditioning for, and then it became like I will elbow everyone out of the way to play the part.
Look, she's one of those people. She is exceptionally charismatic, and anyone can fall for this. Anyone can fall for this. Charismatic people have a way of really suckering you in to make you feel important, to make you feel like, you know, they're the most fun person in the world to be with. See, it's so funny because narcissistic people are very good at elbowing everyone out of the way to get what they want, if it means standing on toes in whatever way. And you have no idea to the extent of what a narcissistic or cluster B person will go to make sure they get what they want. You would elbow everyone out of the way to get that part, and yet you're willing to say that you were terrified of the movie.
I was scared of the original cartoon. I think I watched it once and then I never picked it up again.
And you didn't like the ride.
And then I went on the ride in Disney World, which was called Snow White's Scary Adventures. Was terrified of it. Never revisited Snow White again.
I want to point something out here. A lot of people mistaken charisma for intelligence. So a lot of people would actually say, oh, she seems so smart. No. A lot of people have a charismatic quality where they appear to be intelligent. And then when they have certain job roles where they have been able to get that high-end manager role or be able to get those doctorates or anything like that, that has nothing to do with their intelligence. You'd be surprised how many doctors are actually very unintelligent. Very, extremely. They are in the average category of intelligence. There is a big difference between people who have the same level of intelligence, but one has got drive and charisma and the other one doesn't. So 2 people could have an IQ of 105. One of them could be a GP, which is pretty standard for those kind of people. The GP got his doctorate and everything because he was charismatic enough to be able to pass the interview process to get into med school and driven enough to get to the end, potentially knocking as many people out of the way as they possibly could. Even stealing ideas. That's what narcissistic people do. So do not mistake the fact that someone is charismatic as intelligent. You really have to dig deep to understand who is intelligent and who has charisma.
For me, what drew me to the material, first of all, I'm all about the people. And when I spoke about this project with Mark Platt, whom I adore, who's the producer of the movie, and Mark Webb, our wonderful visionary director for this movie.
See, I have a big problem with Gal Gadot as well, because every single time she talks, she's always very much, she has the high charisma as well. She's not saying anything about the storyline. Like, people are really picking up on the fact that she is letting Rachel do all of the talking on, you know, why this film is progressive for its time. Gal Gadot isn't really saying an awful lot in that, and she's not getting into the politics of this movie either, because she doesn't agree with it. And that's an interesting thing. She doesn't agree with it. She took part in it.
But I think there's something so special about Snow White, the fact that it's about the humanity and it's about nature as well.
It's about humanity and nature. I know it's about all the animals coming and looking after Snow White. Like, what's the humanity thing? What, giving a chance to 7 dwarfs in the original? Not running and fleeing and running away from 7 men? When Snow White was actually 7? Where's the humanity? What is the humanity? Is it the fact that they took her in? And then Disney goes and insults the story by removing the dwarfs from the original story? I mean, I don't see where the humanity is, and I don't see where it's about nature either. About Nature is Happy Feet. About Nature is B-movie. That's About Nature. And they were original movies.
I mean, this girl is a whole, like, she can dance, she can sing for real, she can act, she can do it all.
Way to stroke her ego.
And to be able to work with a team that really knows what they're doing and has the passion is an incredible thing to have.
Okay. When it comes to movies and working behind the scenes, I have a little bit of experience in this because I used to study performing arts, and I just so happened to work on a couple of films, like small time films, but there was one that I worked on that was called Ways to Live Forever. There was one semi-big star that was on it, and that was Natalia Tena. She was in Harry Potter. She played Nymphadora. She's a really cool chick. She's actually a lot of fun. We went out for drinks. Fun. But when I was working on that set, I did a whole weekend as a runner. Now, I will tell you, when I worked on this set, it was sub-zero temperatures. We were in the middle of winter in England. It was filmed in Newcastle. We were out at the harbour. It was so freaking cold. I remember at one point the director saw me and he saw how red my nose was because it was so cold, and he said, we could actually start gallerying around your nose to heat up because it looks that warm. I'm like, cheers, thanks. It was a horrible, it was actually not the best experience as a first timer wanting to work in movies. By the end of this weekend, when I had been there for 2 days in the freezing cold from 6 o'clock in the morning until 5 o'clock that evening because they had to close it down because the sun was setting. They then turned around and said that they didn't have to give me credit or pay me because of some legal loophole involving licensing permits and things like that. Didn't get paid, didn't get a credit.
It's Hollywood, baby.
So there are so many people who work within the industry that don't get paid for their time. This just came out about Orange is the New Black, and a lot of the cast members didn't make any money from that multi-million-dollar show. Why would you have that much money come in and not pay your cast? Now, don't get me wrong, everything that's happening in Hollywood, it's very entitling for an awful lot of artists who are turning around and saying, you need to pay us. You get paid. There are people that get nothing at all. At all. Like the people that work behind the scenes. The amount of people that work on these films that don't get paid is incredible. It's quite interesting when you have these two turning around and saying that they're working with an amazing team. You're calling them amazing. They're not getting paid.
Rachel, you mentioned that this Snow White is going to have like a modern edge to her. Can you elaborate on that? Tell us how she's going to sort of depart from...
First of all, she hasn't even started talking yet, and all I can see is, yeah.
Like, she's so focused on becoming the leader that her father tells her that she can be, and she's really trying to find the courage to stand up to the evil queen and how to find her own agency and rule a kingdom. And she meets so many incredible people along the way, and maybe she finds love, maybe she finds friendship, but really what's important is that she finds her own voice.
I just want to point out that Gal Gadot is not paying any attention at all.
You said you were bringing a modern edge to it on stage. What do you mean by that?
I just mean that it's no longer 1937, and we absolutely wrote a Snow White that is
not going to be saved by the prince.
She's not going to be saved by the prince, and she's not going to be dreaming about true love. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be, and the leader that her late father told her that she could be if she was fearless, fair, brave, and true.
I know that you've told me before that your version of Snow White is different, and it's more of a 2022 version of Snow White. What did you mean by that?
I mean, you know, the original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her.
Yeah.
Weird.
Okay, I don't know where this idea of stalking comes from in the original movie of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. In what part is he stalking her? Like, I genuinely don't know where it is. I used to religiously watch Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. It was one of my favorites. I even had my own Snow White dress whenever I was like 6 years old. At what point does he stalk her? I mean, yeah, it's a little bit cringe considering that Snow White is actually supposed to be 7 years old, but we don't know how old the prince is. I'm guessing he's probably like 18, 19. But nothing happens. And not only was it true for its time, it actually is true for this era. You have a malignant narcissist mother who is trying to kill the daughter. That's why I identify it with so hard. Wow. Okay, she runs away. She finds refuge with 7 dwarves, 7 men, but they look after her. They care for her, and she cares for the household. Now, is that what is the problem? Because it doesn't fit into the modern day feminist agenda? Is that what it is? Because there is nothing wrong with wanting to be with someone. There is absolutely nothing wrong with that. And it doesn't make you weak wanting it. If anything, it is just the way we are structured to be. This is the problem that I have with this whole narrative that she is trying to portray and toxic feminists are trying to portray as well. That we don't need men. There is masculinity and there is femininity. But the added toxicity comes from the people projecting that. There does not have to be a toxic agenda. It just has to be, we have to coexist together. That is it. Even toxic men do not say that they don't need women, but toxic men will abuse women to make them do all the things that they don't want to do. There is absolutely nothing wrong with wanting to have... Well, that worked. Hold up. That didn't work. It's not going to stop me from saying this though, because it is really important that we really address this. Masculine men, feminine women, there's nothing wrong with that. What is wrong with it is the toxicity that comes along with it. And that's not fair to those who are subjected to that kind of torture. Look, this is something I'm definitely noticing from the opposing sides. Men and women do not understand each other's struggles. Men do not understand or respect the trouble that women have to deal with on a daily basis that cause them to want to fight for their rights and then take it too far. And women do not want to understand what men's struggles are and what they have to deal with. And for some strange reason, neither will respect and come together to understand and make a solution. That's where we're at. It's because neither side can see eye to eye. There are so many things that men deal with and women deal with, even on the same level, but the two outcomes are completely different. Let's look at it like this. Domestic violence. Women suffer it, men suffer it. Now, if a woman gets abused by her partner and she gets blamed for causing it, not only does she get blamed for causing it, when she goes back, they blame her as well. So even if she stays within the family home or within the relationship and is being subjected to huge amounts of torture, then she gets blamed for going back. There is no win in this. She can't leave because there's a chance that that person could kill her, which is a big factor in this, because how many men die at the hands of women in the household? It's very, very low. But a lot of women die at the hands of men. Now look at it from the other side. Men get domestically abused as well. And what happens to them? I know quite a few men who have reported domestic violence to police and they have been laughed at. They can't tell their friends because they're ashamed of what they're being subjected to. They can't tell police because they don't believe that that would ever happen. So what do? They have to suffer, and they suffer in silence with it. The two scenarios, even though they are the same scenarios, the subject is completely different to what they experience. And that is not okay. So I know this is probably never going to happen, but it would be really good if we could start respecting what other people go through. And maybe that might be able to take the edge off why there's so much toxicity in this. I'm actually realizing that I'm talking more about toxic women than I am with toxic men. But maybe that's because there's such a massive fallout of what's happening. I really hope that somebody takes something away from this. Sorry that the light went out, but I really do hope that all of you are keeping well and that you are doing the best that you can to try and heal yourselves from whatever it is that these things are. We need to stop admiring anyone in Hollywood. Let's just do everyone. Yep, you're not good. It's quite sad whenever you learn that your heroes are not that good. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for stopping by and watching another episode of Trauma Pond HQ. If you like this, please subscribe, please leave a comment, say whatever you want. It's not going to affect me. I'm already traumatized. Please have a wonderful week, guys, and I will see you next time for another episode of Trauma Pond HQ. Mwah.